in announcing this is the first time that Catherine Austin Fitts has been on, but she reminded me that about 8 years ago or so, she was on the show. But for all intents and purposes, it's not her first rodeo, but this is a maiden voyage in the last 8 years. So it is good to have her with us. But I guess if your memory's wiped, you don't remember something, it is a maiden voyage. Catherine Austin Fitts, founder and managing member of Solari Investment Advisory Services, LLC, president of the Hamilton Securities Group Investment Bank and financial software developer, assistant secretary of housing, federal housing commissioner under Bush 1, managing director and member of the board of the Wall Street firm Dillon, Reed & Co., Inc. Doesn't get any more elite than that. Catherine has designed and closed over $25 billion in transactions and investments to date and has led portfolio strategy for $300 billion of financial assets and liabilities. Solari.com is the website, Solari.com. We're very honored to have her here, and hopefully we can start having her every few months instead of every decade or so. And I want her to just tell you a little bit about herself, her journey, her voyage, for the few of you that don't know who she is. She's on TV, radio a lot over the years. And then I want to get into what we're facing as a society, what the elites are doing, her take on Obama. And it's great to have Catherine Austin Fitts on with us today. Catherine?
Alex, it's always a pleasure. As you know, I'm a huge fan of you and InfoWars.
Well, I guess I'd forgotten that fact, but it's I've been emailing you for a while, but maybe emailing the wrong email trying to get you on, and I was crestfallen. But I'm a big fan of you. You got the floor. Break down what you think's most important, but first tell us about yourself.
Well, I came out of the Bush administration thinking, oh my word, the fascists are going to kill us all. We need to do something. And I started an investment bank in Washington, and our goal was to help communities finance with equity, because rather than shipping all of our money to Wall Street and then hoping a little bit trickles back, or shipping it all to Washington and hoping a little trickles back, my theory was, how about if we financed our own businesses and did much more locally? So I started an investment bank. One of the things we did was we were hired on competitive bid to be financial advisor to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, where I'd worked as an assistant secretary, and we did loan sales, Alex, and they were unbelievably successful. It was during the Clinton administration, and but the corruption got worse and worse. Now, it was terrible in the Bush administration. It just kept getting worse in the Clinton administration, and we were. A decision was made. I was part of a group of people who were saying, "Oh my goodness, with GATT and NAFTA, we're gonna ship all the jobs abroad." And we need to do something, or else the American people are going to be left high and dry. We're going to lose. The middle class will be wiped out. How are we going to develop new skills? How are we going to help people create new jobs and support small business? So we're part of a group that we're working on all of that. And literally a decision was made, rather than address the real problems and help the American people jump the curve on the situation, that instead we would bubble the economy and pull massive amounts of capital and reinvest them abroad. And
so this was a conscious decision, and you were there on the inside witnessing
absolutely. This. And I'll tell you, the greatest, one of the best videos I've ever seen, you can get it up on my blog at Solari.com, /blog, is Sir James Goldsmith did a speaking tour trying to stop the GATT from being passed in the World Trade Organization to be adopted, and basically said, this is the most frightening, terrifying thing. We're going to have 3 billion people moved off the land. We're, massive unemployment worldwide. We're going to have massive structural unemployment in the United States. He gave this interview, it's up on YouTube, to Charlie Rose in 1995, and he predicts everything that's happening now. Now, remember, this man's a billionaire, very successful businessman, and basically said, look, this is the establishment against everybody else. And he said, this is going to be the most devastating, horrible thing that has ever happened to the world. It's absolutely crazy. And he lays it all out, and so I can say the same thing. We were on the inside. We're working with the administration, and we knew that we were going to create massive unemployment. Now, here's the big secret of the work that I did when I was in Washington during that period. We created something, Alex, called Community Wizard, which was a software tool that would allow us to look at the sources and uses of government money by place, because America's just 3,100 counties. And when you look at government investment by place, what you discover is that that a great deal of money is being spent to centralize economic and political power and to basically subsidize large corporations and all sorts of unproductive behavior, whether it's, people on welfare all the way up to corporations on welfare. But let me give you a couple examples. We would regularly find places where HUD was spending, this is HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, was spending $250,000 to construct or rehab an apartment building when $50,000 would buy and rehab a foreclosed single-family property. So we were spending 4 or 5 times what we needed to get one. And I went to the assistant to the person who ran that program in 1996 and said, look, we could get 5 homes for the price of one. And they looked at me, turned bright red, and said, but how would we generate fees for our friends? Now, imagine, if you will, imagine how many more people would have homes today if we weren't doing things like that.
It was just a giant honeypot, and the media loves to always blame poor people who were told, oh, it's the new America. It's the way to build wealth, build equity, go out from the banks down to the assessors. We're all going to basically cheat on the forms. The media advertised it was okay to do. And then the media now tries to blame the poor people that got set up and ripped off and given these arms and these balloon mortgages. That's like, my analogy, Catherine Austin Fitts, is like blaming a 6-year-old that doesn't mind their parents, gets out of the backyard, goes in the front yard, and a man has a puppy and candy in a van, and they get in the car and get taken away and raped and killed. You don't blame the 5-year-old. You blame the banks. You blame the killer. You blame the people that set this in motion.
Well, in fact, it's called, under the law, it's called fraudulent inducement. If I encourage you if I'm a lender and I encourage you to take on a loan, and I know something about your future financial condition that you don't, then that is fraudulent inducement, and you may not be obligated to pay me back for all or a portion. So, in fact, what happened was, if you look at the largest banks and the largest people leading the mortgage business, everything that I knew then, they knew. I mean, this was all known in Washington, that the jobs were going to go abroad and incomes were generally going to fall. And so what they were doing was they were encouraging people to take out loans, many of whom thought they could pay back and didn't know that their income was going to be falling.
Let's jump forward, then we'll go back. But let's jump forward. Greg Gordon's 4-part series now in McClatchy newspapers, he got the internal documents of what you've already publicly stated and others have stated, that the pilots that pilot the private Federal Reserve and all the major regulatory positions, Goldman Sachs, were telling everybody to invest in housing, selling these securities, while at the same time betting against them to destroy their competitors and vertically integrate the market. To them, making everybody destitute or a lower standard of living, that's great vertical integration. That's like a mosquito jamming their proboscis into your arm, pumping in enzymes to liquidate the cells so they can slurp them up. I mean, this is just a parasite.
Right, but remember, these firms no longer see themselves as serving clients. They see themselves as trading for their own account and being part of syndicates, which includes the U.S. government, which engage in economic warfare. And when they engage in economic warfare and when they trade for their own account, they're using the federal credit to do it. And so, if they lose money, we print paper and dig them out. And if they don't lose money, they get to keep it. It's sort of win, you win, and lose, you win.
So what's the end game? And then I want to go back over the history of this and more of where we're going, and I want you to lead the discussion throughout the rest of the hour, Catherine Austin Fitts. But, I mean, specifically, then you're agreeing that it's premeditated and predatory. What's the end game?
What we're watching, and it started in the latest phase started in 1995 with the institution of the World Trade Organization. What we're watching is a fundamental re-engineering of how resources on planet Earth are governed. So we're moving from a model where places are governed by governments, by sovereign governments, to a world where resources are managed by multinational corporations under the auspices of a world government that is, operates very much through the financial system and the central banking system. And if you look at the economic model that it's using, it's not really a new model. It's called central banking warfare. So the central banks print money, and the military makes sure that people take it.